Because we cover immigration, refugee issues broadly across all states, and that's what we're tracking, it can be really difficult to figure out what we need to actually be looking at and going through all the alerts. It can be, hundreds of alerts every day and just figuring out whether or not it's impacting the populations and the partners that we're supporting. So the couple of quick things that we do is just looking at the AI summary in Quorum and assessing whether or not it's relevant. Sometimes things ping our search terms, but it's not actually relevant to what we're following. We also, because we're talking specifically, a lot of times about undocumented populations, refugees, like we have very specific populations we're trying to look at. I can ask the Copilot in Quorum to list out the populations that are being impacted by a certain piece of legislation, and that's really helpful to determine if it's, if something says undocumented immigrants, that flags something different for me than if it says like qualifying immigrants who happen to qualify for Medicaid after a certain amount of time. Like I know that those things mean very, very different processes. So just being able to ask the Copilot to list out specifically populations impacted. When it's really large budget, things like budget bills or, those 300-page bills that we all open up and we like kind of are like, okay, I have to tackle this. Being able to say, please list out any specific provisions or funding for a certain program or that impacts this certain population is really, really helpful. And then I can go back to the bill and read more and look at that. And then the other thing I would say is kind of going through these is whether or not it's a new provision or not. So a lot of bills will ping to our systems because it's amending something that's already in statute. And so I just need to know whether or not I need to pay attention because a new provision impacts the populations we care about. So also asking Copilot, like, are any of these provisions, like, what is this bill about? And then saying, are any of these provisions are any of these provisions new, modifying existing statute, or they're like from a previous legislation that was passed a couple of years ago? And that really helps us to filter through those things real quickly and tell whether or not it's something that's changing this year or it's just amending a different part of the legislation. So I think just like overall is being really specific about what we're looking for in the legislation, who's being impacted, what is the amount, and just asking those detailed questions.